Byron York from the Washington Examiner. He's the chief political correspondent over at the Washington Examiner, is on the line now to help us sort out what's going on. It's sort of a very weird procedural thing that's going on there. But see if you can sort of break it down in its simplest terms. What's likely to happen in the Senate, and then what happens after the Senate?
Well, what's likely to happen in the Senate is that the bill that the House passed, which is this continuing resolution that funds the government, but it also has this provision to defund Obamacare. What's going to happen is that Obamacare provision is going to be stripped out on a vote by the Democrats, so it's going to be what's called a clean continuing resolution, just a funding bill. They're going to send it back to the House to see what happens. But what Ted Cruz is trying to do is he's desperately trying to find a way to stop that the bill, and this is the bill that he asked the House to pass.
Yeah, that's what's weird about it, isn't it?
Yeah, and what happens is, it takes 41 senators to successfully filibuster something. There are only 46 Republicans. So if you lose any Republicans, many Republicans, you can't filibuster. And yesterday what we saw is Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn, the top two Republicans in the Senate, said they're not going to be a part of a filibuster. And remember, Lindsey Graham has said that. John McCain said that. Now you're at 4. Richard Burr from North Carolina called the thing the dumbest idea he'd ever heard. I don't think he's on board. Tom Coburn called it dishonest. He's probably not on board. So they don't have enough Republicans to filibuster.
But what's interesting about this, though, is that they can continue to say they supported the bill that was sent over from the House.
Sure. What's going to happen is Harry Reid will go forward and he'll offer an amendment which will strip away this Obamacare provision. And, of course, all the Republicans will vote against removing that amendment. And, of course, Democrats, because they have the majority, they will prevail, and the amendment will be taken out, and then the bill will be passed. One question is how Republicans are going to vote then on what the clean CR, whether they're going to vote not to fund the government or to fund the government. It's going to be a free vote in a sense that Democrats can pass it. They have 54 votes. They can pass it on a simple majority. Then the whole thing gets tossed right back into the House.
Right, and then they have to discuss whether they can come up with some kind of compromise. And, well, listen, I mean, Byron York, in 2010, or when Obamacare was enacted, Nancy Pelosi got no help from the Republicans. They used a procedural trick by just bringing forth the Senate bill without having any modifications in the House, and she marched her party off the cliff. Nancy Pelosi didn't mind the fact that she knew she was going to lose her majority. They lost 63 votes enacting Obamacare. So will John Boehner be just as courageous as Nancy Pelosi was? And a re-election be damned. I'm willing to do what the American people want me to do and defund Obamacare, even if it means shutting down the government, even if it means handing over the gavel.
Well, the answer is no. I mean, Pelosi marched her caucus over the cliff, but she passed the bill. It became law. And Boehner cannot do that. He cannot by himself defund Obamacare. You have to remember, at that time, Democrats had 255 votes in the House and 60 in the Senate. They could do it by themselves. So, no, you're not going to see that kind of suicidal march on the part of Boehner or Republican leaders.
So where is there a compromise to be had here? Many people are saying, listen, the Obama administration has already delayed so much of this bill. People are saying they're not ready. The unions are even saying that this is a bad bill. What if we delay this a year?
No, you do hear Republicans talk about that. It's kind of like the middle Republican position saying, well, we can't defund it. Let's work on delaying it. I don't see any evidence that Democrats are any more inclined to delay the start of Obamacare, which starts on October 1st for the exchanges and January 1st for the subsidies. I don't see any inclination that they're inclined to delay it any more than to defund it. And the only way they would be, I think, is if the White House told them it was okay. If they sent a signal saying, okay, let's delay it. We haven't seen anything like that from the president.
All right, so help me understand one thing about what's going on in the Senate right now. Help me understand the fact you got Mitch McConnell, you got John Cornyn, and the other senators that you listed there early on who are saying, I can't support Ted Cruz and his effort. But none of those people are enamored with Obamacare. So why are they not getting on board? What is their counter-argument to this?
Well, they all oppose Obamacare, and they all support defunding Obamacare. As a matter of fact, the Senate held a vote in March to defund Obamacare, and every single Republican voted to defund it. That's including some of the ones who say this present move is crazy. The fact is now, though, it's attached to a government spending measure, and the only way Republicans could stop the Obamacare funding is if they also stop the government funding. That's just the way the bill works, and that's life in the minority. And Republicans are simply not willing to do that. They believe, and I think
but why?
That
why?
Republicans always get blamed for government shutdown.
All right, but Byron York, I mean, you're on Capitol Hill all the time. You're challenging these people with good questions. I mean, don't you remind them that in 1996, after the government shutdown of '94, that Republicans absolutely were blamed for? The Senate actually, the Republicans gained 2 seats in the Senate, and that's with the non-coattails of Bob Dole on the national ticket.
But their belief is the goal here is not to shut down the government. The goal is to stop Obamacare, and they believe that they simply cannot do that. You have to remember, large parts of Obamacare are in what's called mandatory appropriations. They're automatic appropriations. It's already done. The spending goes out regardless of what happens. The Republicans are saying, well, what is our actual goal here? Certainly our goal is not to shut down the government. But if we took that measure, which many of us view as extreme, would it at least accomplish the goal of stopping Obamacare? And they say, no, it wouldn't. So then why are they doing it?
And so and they're probably saying, well, we want to be able to have control of the Senate in 2014. We'll have more leverage. If the Republicans were to get control of the Senate, is there any way at that point to stop Obamacare, especially since it's been enacted for a year?
It's going to be more difficult, but here's the thing. A lot of people believe, Ted Cruz argues that now this is the last chance to stop Obamacare. And some people, like me, think the last chance to stop Obamacare was really the election of 2012, and Republicans did not win. On the other hand, it's about to become a reality in Americans' lives, and there's going to be a really huge question as to whether Obamacare hurts more people than it helps. And if that is the case, a lot of Republicans believe it's going to be a disaster. If that is the case, that is going to create huge political momentum, and it's all going to be in the Republicans' favor. But it has to happen. You can't just do it in prospect right now.
All right, Byron York, thanks so much. Always brings us lots of information.
Sorry, no good news, guys.
No, we appreciate your perspective.
Okay.